Before we mixed, we went to Paramount Recording Studios in Hollywood to edit the album. Pretty much all of the songs had over 100 tracks, so it made sense to clean everything up and prepare each song for mixing beforehand. At one point, my dad and brother were visiting from Norway, so I brought them to the studio one day to show them what it's all about.
He is very good.
I haven't heard him for years, but
he's good. Yeah. The drummer says, hey, you're gonna put me out of my job.
We also went to Disneyland. After many long days and late nights in the studio, we were finally ready to mix.
We're here at Sphere Studios. Francesco Camelli owns this studio. He started it in London. It's one of the finest studios in the world. He brought the studio here to sunny California, right here in North Hollywood. This studio, when it was in London, is famous for producing and engineering tons of very successful records. It's just loaded down with vintage equipment. And so we decided to mix the Firestorm album here. There's a questionable area there. The violins, the string section sounded good. The only thing maybe we'd do is go back and you'll hear a piano underneath the string section. I don't want to bring that up much, but just a little bit so that the
because he plays that little counterpart extra right here.
So the album we're working on right now is called Firestorm, and it's a concept album, and it's reminiscent of the albums from the 80s. So we wanted to use a lot of the equipment that was used back then, because today most people use just a laptop. We wanted to use a full SSL board. We have a lot of vintage compressors and EQs, and of course, you know, we have all the old reverbs. So we're getting the best of the 80s and the best of modern technology, which is of course Pro Tools and, you know, plugins. So together, it makes it just a great sound.
Yeah, he go. That piano portion.
But this one over here, there's no piano, so he can.
No,
okay,
right.
Yeah.
We're sitting here with a beautiful SSL 4000G plus board that's been entirely modernized. This whole thing is customized by Francesco, but at the same time, over there in the corner we've got an EMT 250, which was the workhorse for reverb for drums back in the 80s. And it's just as valid today as it was then. Rocky's album, Firestorm, just called out for that huge drum sound and that 1980s biting guitar sound. So we needed to find a facility that was capable of reproducing that. And I think we did here.
Yes, we did.
I had a little reverb, I added more. You could leave in the chorus train too. Or is that weird? That's weird.
That's too
It only works for the Leslie.
Too Western.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Let's back up and look at our guitar tones. That's all coming in yet. So that part's good. Where's my other dirty guitar? What I say the tempo was?
It's not there right now.
The reason why this is a great studio to work in is because we have all of the vintage equipment that everybody wants, but it's combined with a very, very powerful computer with a huge SSL and the newest Pro Tools, so we get the best of both worlds. The other thing that since I'm a guitar player, I always care about the guitar sound, and there was something about the sound I wasn't comfortable with, so I wanted to reamp the sound, which we were smart enough to record a DI signal when we recorded the guitars. I endorse Engel amps, so I wanted to have the Engel sound on the album. So we have 3 amps that we used, and they have basically 3 different sounds, and it really makes the guitar sound very special. Very thick, very ballsy, and hopefully something you haven't heard before.
We were able to contact Engel and tell them we were really looking for a sound that was different than something that they had seen or heard before. And they were kind enough to bring us just a nice collection of amps, both retro and current amps, and we were able to, for each song, listen to each amp, each sound, and come up with the sound that we wanted for that specific song. The fact that we could reamp the way we did was made possible in part from the way we recorded it, but also this studio has facilities that just make it easier to do that.
So it's just like pointed stuff. Yeah!
Steve's been engineering basically since day one. He started as a second, and he became the first, and now he's mixing the album. And he's kind of been the 5th member of the band because he's putting everything together and making sure everything sounds good, helping out with getting all the new sounds that we're creating in here, and testing out all this vintage gear. And he's just a great guy.
I think he's like a kid in a candy store here because of all the equipment. But one of the nice things is Steve's a guitar player as well. And so the fact that he's a guitar player mixes well with Rocky. So they have a good rapport that allows them to create music that's well above average for a guitar album.
Oh, so this is the Shadow Hills difference. That's what Shadow Hills is doing.
The big knobs paid off.
Yeah, they do. without it. Here's with it.
Yeah.
I can mix a cut through more.
Yep.
Bass could still use some help though.
Yeah.
TLA 100, there it is. Slow attack.
Keyboard pad, right?
It's a
Some
key-
horns.
It's a keyboard horns.
I think it's been lost.
I think it doesn't have to be there. It's B3 should be the most
Loop
prevalent.
dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's mute that shit.
So you can just mute it.
Get rid of it. How about tube screener?
On the piano.
I want to hear that. That's pretty badass to have this plug
Yeah, but I don't think we need it on the piano.
in.
For tape saturation. Might try pulling those room mics back a little bit.
Oh, I muted him.
You muted them, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I used this
that's pulling them back.
Yeah.
When we were working on the drum sounds, we invited Alejandro over to get his thoughts and comments on the drums. We wanted him to be happy because he'd worked so hard on those drum parts. He seemed pretty pleased.
Yeah, man. It's very good. You like it?
After 13 years in London and having many famous artists record there, including Adele, Ed Sheeran, and Gary Moore, it didn't take long for Sphere to develop a reputation in LA, considering that while we were there, Linkin Park was in Studio A recording what would be their last album with Chester. When we were done mixing, the next step was an important one: mastering. And one of the best mastering engineers in the world is Bernie Grundman. From the beginning, both Kim and I wanted him to master the album. Kim had been using him for decades. This was my first experience with him, but I had seen his name on so many albums. The biggest one is definitely Thriller and other Michael Jackson albums, but the list just goes on and on. We wanted to release Firestorm on vinyl, and we had a good discussion with Bernie about how to achieve the best quality. He knows best. Since the album is 60 minutes, it made more sense to make it a 45 RPM double album.
It could just be like that. Okay. We are ready. Yeah, make sure everything's set up then. Okay. Well, we'll see what it does.
We also wanted to use 180-gram virgin vinyl so that it would satisfy any audiophile out there looking for the best way to experience Firestorm. As a bonus, it comes with a poster.
That's pretty good to get that on a 45.
If it'll work there, it'll work all throughout because that was the longest cut, or the longest side.
Well, the other side looks, when you look at they look about the same.
About the same.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. The two middle ones are the same, too. It's interesting.
Yeah.
The outside ones are...
Yeah.
Long beginning and long ending.
After mastering, the only thing left was manufacturing. I actually had the chance to see the printing of the vinyl jackets at Dorado, and they had this huge 5-color Heidelberg press where you could see each color get printed. Going from having an idea in my head to having the physical product in my hand was very satisfying. What you have witnessed could be the end of a long journey. It isn't. It's the beginning. The beginning. The beginning. The beginning. The beginning. The beginning.